Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good to be here at the first Fox Days Amsterdam. My name is Rick Ossendrijver. I'm here today with my co-speaker.
Uh, yeah. Hi, I'm Enric. I'm a software engineer at Picnic.
Yeah, today we're going to talk about GraalVM and how we use that within Picnic. And I'm, of course, interested in how many of you have heard of GraalVM. Can I see some hands? Okay, that was fun to ask, knowing that Alina is here from the GraalVM team. But yeah, today we're not gonna look at the native image part of GraalVM, so we're not gonna talk about the fast startups and all these things, but we're actually gonna talk about the Polyglot engine and how we use that within Picnic. Because instead of fast build-up times, what we really startup times, what we try to do with the GraalVM Polyglot engine, we want to be able to ship features, ship business features to our customers as quickly as possible. So yeah, we're gonna show you all about that. We're gonna dive into some technical details there. So yeah, let's dive right in. So how does this usually go when the business comes up with an idea? They want the engineers to implement something. They want a new business feature. So they start. They have the idea. Then they go around the table with some engineers, also on the business side. They start discussing how would this look like? What kind of things do we need to implement? What are we going to ask the engineers? So they come up with a list of requirements. And then after they have these requirements, they go to the engineering team and say, hey, this is the thing that we want you to implement. Well, then the engineering team is, of course, a very busy team, has a roadmap, has to work on things that bring value to the company, and then they also need to put this somewhere on the roadmap. So probably like the next quarter, they're actually going to work on the thing that the business wants them to do. And then, well, then comes the part where the engineers are actually going to implement it. And after they implemented it and put it live, there are also some bugs. So they also need to fix that. So as you can see, this is quite a large and lengthy process, which of course takes a lot of time. And that's also what we saw within Picnic when launching new features. So I'm wondering for you, how long does it usually take to when the business has an idea to actually putting it live in production? Like, how does it take for a business feature? Like more than 2 weeks? Can I see some hands? Okay, more than 4 weeks maybe? I still see some hands. So indeed, this is a cycle that simply takes a lot of time. And it gets even more complicated because let's say all the requirements are very clear from the beginning, although is only sometimes true. A lot of things can happen throughout this process. So as it takes a lot of time to implement these features, what usually happens is that the business comes up with new features and has like a list of ever-changing requirements because they do some testing and they're like, hey, we actually want to slightly change this. So they again have to go to the engineering team. They need to bother them while they're working on these features. And yeah, they continuously would like to have tweaks of the requirements. And also when you launch this in different countries, well, Picnic is active in 3 different countries, the Netherlands, Germany, and France. And for all the different countries, the features sometimes have to work slightly different. So it would be awesome if they are able to do something about them themselves instead of asking the engineering team for that. And on top of that, what is also a thing is that the law differs in all these countries. So the features that you have to work on have to work slightly different in every country. So as we now established, this is a process that takes a lot of time and requires a lot of work on the engineering side. But that is far from ideal, and I want to go over the ideal scenario with you. Because what, instead of having all the engineers implement these things, what if we can switch this around a little bit and say like, okay, what we would like to have in the ideal world is that the business comes up with an idea, and that they can simply have a way to define and control the business feature, so the business logic that they need to write for this feature, that they can control and define it themselves without any engineer having to be involved. And what would be even better is if they're also able to see if the business that the feature that they put live actually works as it's supposed to do. Does it get to the conversion that they aim to have? Do we get more customers because of the new feature that they are putting live? So in the ideal world, what it would look like is that the business itself is end-to-end responsible for this whole process, without any engineer being involved. So you might wonder, this sounds really cool. What would the engineering team then actually do? Well, they would simply be on the beach with a beer in the hand, and they don't have to be involved.
I approve.
Well, of course, that is not the case. In this scenario, the engineering team could actually focus on providing a much more powerful self-service platform for the business. They can extend its capabilities such that, again, the business and the features that they are implementing are even more powerful and have even more impact. So what we saw at Picnic is that we wanted to change this. We wanted to move towards this ideal world. And I'm going to show you a bit like what would this look like? What is the solution space? So we noticed that the kind of requests that happened were a lot like this. There are many things happening with the Picnic. People are ordering. We are getting new customers. They're doing things within Picnic. And based on these things, we actually want to take actions. So effects. And in between, there are many, many decisions to be made. And this is what the business then can do. They can decide when a thing happens, we want to do something. When a new customer signs up, we want to send them an email. Or we want to give them a welcome gift, something like that. So we want the business to be able to be here in the middle, to define these decisions, but also to own these decisions and take responsibility for them. So now into slightly more technical. What does it actually mean to have this? Well, there are many events happening, as I said, within Picnic. The systems, of course, they communicate by means of events. And there are many actions that can result out of that. And in between, we have a very large red box, which is basically a big gap that we need to fill. We need to think of a way in which we can make the business define their decisions here. So we started to wonder, okay, what is a nice approach? Like, how can we make this happen for our business operators? Then, well, the first thing we did is we started to look at the market, and we started to identify, hey, what are solutions, like off-the-shelf solutions that we could use? And we mainly had two things that we actually that we didn't like. Well, we had two things to consider. One thing is that when using off-the-shelf solutions, let me rephrase that. When Picnic started, we needed many different systems, so we used quite some off-the-shelf solutions. But as we went on as a company, we often walked into some challenges, and we noticed that we couldn't really alter or tweak the existing solutions to what we actually needed, because we have very precise requirements. And on top of that, we also considered the people who are going to use this, who are going to define this red box, and those are our business operators. So we looked at what they used in their day-to-day job, in their standard tooling, for example, SQL and other languages. So we also heavily considered that. And as a result of that, well, there's one more thing actually, because in the keynote, Sander mentioned that we are also not really afraid to try new big things and also fail in a proper way, like by experimenting. So with all of these reasons, we actually decided, okay, let's build something our own and try to see if we can make a nice thing here in the red box. So we decided, okay, we're going to build the rule engine. Well, then again, what are we going to use for the rule engine? So we started again looking at our business analysts, and besides the SQL that they do a lot in their standard day-to-day work, we see that the tooling often relies on like some form of writing JavaScript or Python. And knowing that Picnic does a lot of Java development, if you combine all these things, then a very nice solution is the GraalVM Polyglot engine. So what the GraalVM Polyglot engine does, it is an engine that allows you to allows the execution and interoperability of language interpreters for additional programming languages. What does that mean? Well, you can run basically multiple languages, but they can also work together. Well, and that is the perfect, that perfectly fits in the red box. So yeah, now over to Enric.
All right. Thanks, Rick. Wow, that was a very cool pitch. You know, I'm convinced. Let's build this. And let's flip this around a little bit. So let's start with the final product, and then we will see how do we actually get there. How do we make it happen? And to introduce it, let's look at a real use case. So many of these use cases begin with a hypothesis. In this case, a business analyst had a hypothesis. What if, when a customer places their first order, we enrich that order with a booklet if it is their first order. The base hypothesis was actually the business proposition of the company is pretty cool. It's we deliver good quality products at affordable prices in an all-electric EPB. So it's good for the planet, it's good for you, and it's good for your wallet, right? So how am I doing in convincing you to try it? Hope that's good. So anyway, the hypothesis was that if we tell the customers about us, then maybe that will actually convince them to keep ordering and increase the conversion. So we don't want to build this into our backend as a hard-coded logic. We want to give them the possibility of just define it yourself, being a business analyst. So I think it's time for the demo. So what could this look like? This role could start with a sort of header saying, hey, I'm a role, I accept an event, in this case an order placed event. Then I may want to extract some parameters from that event. For example, hey, which user is this? What is the order ID? Then I need to know, is this the first order of the customer? Then I can do a query to count, hey, how many orders that are confirmed by this customer, but they are not the one that were just placed. Get the count. If they already had some, then hey, I don't need to do anything. I'm going to log something for keeping track of what happened. For explainability reasons, this will end up in the data warehouse. But if the conditions are met, then at the end, I'm going to return that as the outcome of my rule, I would like to apply a promotion to the order, adding 1 unit of this welcome booklet. And this is the sort of rule that we would like our analysts to be able to write. And notice that this is Python, but we could accomplish exactly the same thing with JavaScript as well. So get back to the slides. What we will take a look at now is what is the process that we would like to follow to put these rules live. So in the first place, the rule writer would write this rule. They would check it into a versioning control system. Then we, in the backend, in our Java platform, we would load this rule, and we would connect it to our event streams. At the company, we use Rabbit and Kafka. When an event comes in, we would evaluate those rules. Maybe the rules need extra context to make those decisions. They would connect with database. As a result of the rule, maybe we decide to take some action, right? So we will send an SMS or give a gift to their basket, send an email, any kind of business action. And the system would then actually make it happen by talking to the right service inside the company that knows how to do these things. All right, so how does this all work? How do we go from I have written a rule in JavaScript or Python. Let's take a look end to end at how do we load it into something we can execute, how do we integrate with GraalVM, how do we then the actions end up happening. So what is the first thing that happens in this flow? An event comes in, an order was placed. What we need to do is take this event, this Java event, and we want to feed it into the rule, which is JavaScript or Python. Then this rule will get some extra context to make decisions, and then it'll apply the actions. Let's check what is this rule. This is the DTO that represents a role in our system. It has an ID to keep track of it, has a description so that the business operators can keep track of what they're doing. And then, very importantly, at the end, there's some source code. This source code is just a string, and it's the JavaScript or Python code that they wrote and they checked into the version control system. But wait, how do we, if we get this source code in Java, how do we run it? That's where GraalVM comes in. Because what we can do is get a GraalVM context, which is a primitive of GraalVM that allows to create a sort of session. In this session, we can load code, we can execute commands in guest languages. In our case, Python and JavaScript. There's support for more. But the first thing we do is we take that source code, we load it into the context to interpret that code. And then once it's available there, what we would like to do is remember how that example we saw started with a method introduction for the rule. We actually want to get a handle to that rule function to keep track of it, and then when an event comes in, we can invoke this handle to actually run the logic. So now that we can load the source code and make it executable and invoke it, we want to connect it to the event stream. So when an event comes in, it first will get to the event router. The event router is basically configuration that decides, hey, given an event of this type, these are the rules that are applicable for that event. So we delegate to the right rule. And then we take that event, which is a Java DTO, we want to pass it into the rule that is implemented in that guest language. But wait, we cannot really do that. This is a Java object. How can we use it from JavaScript or from Python? There's a mismatch there. We need something in between. So let's imagine that this is an example event that we would like to pass into our guest language. There's an order ID, there's a user ID, there's a price. We would like to be able to use it from the guest language, for example, from JavaScript, in the following manner, which is just a native syntax of the guest language. In between, we need this translation layer that adapts the calls. How we implemented this in this project is, so we start with this Java object. We use Jackson to introspect the object to figure out its members. And then using the concept of GraalVM proxies, we can create an instance where whenever we receive invocations from either of these languages into the proxy instance, it will delegate to one of the accessors of the corresponding member, if it exists. So this allows us to take a Java object, pass it into either of the guest languages, and in those it will behave like a native object. So let's assume that I have a map. When I pass it into a Python, it will behave like a dictionary. When we pass it into JavaScript, it will behave like an object. And all the accessors, all the methods available on those can be used seamlessly. So let's recap. Where are we? We can take an event. It's a Java event. We feed it into the rule. It gets translated. Now I can use it. I can access the parameters in a native syntax of the guest language. But what if my event doesn't contain all the context that I need, right? So maybe the event says, hey, an order was placed, and I want to take an action giving a gift, but I want to check, is there stock for this gift before I do it? That is not in the event. I need to get that context. How can we do that? We would like to offer from the guest language a means to interact with the picnic context. In this case, for example, we would like to make a REST call to some stock service to ask it, hey, is there stock for this article in this region, such that we can make a choice. Similarly, maybe you want to interact with a database. Let's make this read-only. Let's remember that this is a business analyst defined logic. Let's not go crazy here. So what we would like to do is offer a means, an entry point for the guest language to call into some Java infrastructure, right? So now we're flipping this around. In the beginning, we saw how the Java backend took a Java event and called the guest language. Now we are turning this around. From the guest language, we would like to call some Java infrastructure, where we have a database client, where we have an HTTP client that can make calls out to other services. How does this work? Actually, we can define components in Java, and we can accept values from the guest language. They will be represented as this value. A value is like a representation of any instance that comes in from the guest language, and we can access parameters of this value, extract what we need to make those calls. So for example, here we're retrieving the query string, we're retrieving a set of query parameters, and then we make a call to a Java component that can execute that query. But we're not done because the output of this query is again Java objects. We need to proxy them before we get them back into the guest language. So we proxy them, and we then wrap them as a proxy array, which is another proxy interface that allows a Java list to behave like the corresponding native component in either of the guest languages. Now we have seen how to interact with and retrieve data. What about applying commands? Very similarly, we can define a Java component that accepts a call into send campaign, extracts some parameters that represent that command. Another example is maybe from a rule we would like to send a push to a user, telling them, "Hey, look at this nice gift that we placed in your basket." Let's take a look at how can we implement this. Very similarly as the data access, we can extract some parameters from that value, from that object that is defined in the guest language. We can unpack that, get the title, get the deep link, get the devices, all that stuff. And in the end, we assemble Java DTO representing the command. Very important to note here, we're not actually executing anything. We're just assembling a representation of the command. Why is that? In this project, we have achieved a pretty powerful system in the sense that business analysts, they can, on their own, define the rules, they can put them live, they start evaluating and defining what to do. But this has quite a high potential of something going wrong. There could be a mistake that just fires a bunch of wrong things, leading to an incident. Of course, we don't want that. So the way that the architecture was set up is there is a gate here in between. The rules can only declare what they would like to do, and then our Java backend will take over. It will apply some rate limits. It will deduplicate actions. It will check for consents, do a bunch of checks, and then make sure that we're taking the correct actions.
Nice. that sounds pretty good. Just to recap what we just saw. We saw how we can load a rule into the GraalVM context, how we make sure that a Java event is available in the guest language. Then we can how the Java infrastructure is made available to get more context, and then how to apply actions, or how to produce actions that you would like to have applied. But now a little bit more about how does this work within Picnic and some more info on that. Because, yeah, as Enric said in the previous slide, there are also quite some things that can go wrong. So I want to go over this little example called the cheese paper incident. Everyone within Picnic knows what these three words exactly mean. But I have a question for you, because, yeah, let's go over this. Let's say a customer places an order, and as a nice service, what we want to do is we said, hey, if this order contains cheese, then we want to actually give as a service, we want to add a cheese paper to nicely wrap the cheese in for the customer at home. So this rules as follows. Okay, when an order is placed, we want to produce an action that adds an order with the cheese paper. So now my question is, what can go wrong? Pindakaas. Yeah, kind of qualifies. Do you maybe have like what concept, like conceptually, what can go wrong here? Multiple orders. Size, also slightly true. Enric, what can go wrong?
Well, can you guess what happens when someone misclassifies the cheese paper as a cheese product?
We have a cycle, and indeed we get a very big order with many cheese papers, and well, at some point the system cannot really handle this anymore. It's a very powerful system that allows you to add many of them, but at some point this also stops. So we yeah, we saw the result of that. So yeah, that's an interesting thing here. That yeah, the powerful platform versus what, how do we gatekeep this and make sure it's also still safe to use. On safety, there's the GraalVM context allows you, there's a nice context builder that allows you to define very precisely what you're allowed to do in this context. Like, can you spawn threads? Can you, what are all the things here? Like, you can define a lot of things for host access, class loading, and many different other things. So if you configure this properly, there are a lot of nice guardrails that you can already provide. Yeah, I want to share a bit on some lessons learned, because well, we let business analysts who are not always come from a development background, we let them define rules in the rule engine. So what's really important is that we need to make it very easy for them to ensure that the business logic that they are writing is like fully tested. So we have a nice component testing setup where they can test all their edge cases and make sure that everything works as expected to account for all the edge cases. And what we also have is that once you created a rule, you can also first test it in a dry run mode. So they have a simple UI where they can see, hey, if my test would, if my rule would be enabled, what kind of results would it produce? Does it fit? Like, do I see what I expect to see here? And then they can decide to put it live. And it's also very important that we focus a lot on traceability. So how is my rule precisely behaving? For which customers is it doing which exact things? Or more importantly, why is it, for example, not producing an action? So that it's also easier to find out which edge cases are there and to make the rule better. Yeah, when a rule is live, it's also important to make sure that once the rule is maybe not performing well, or the database query is causing a lot of load on the database, that we need a way to report back to the creator of the rule, saying, hey, please take a look at this rule, because there is some issue here that you should try to resolve. So in short, what have we accomplished? Well, we have built a large platform that allows business operators to define business features and ship them and monitor them all by themselves without any backend engineering involved. And yeah, this has led to many rules written by the rule writers. Throughout this presentation, we talked a lot about the business operators and that they're writing all this code. And you might wonder, like, are they actually doing all of this? Are they able to write JavaScript and Python? Like, they must be quite awesome people. Well, I actually took a picture of one of the analysts to show you how powerful they are. Indeed, they are writing all these rules and making us allowing us to ship business features very fast. I want to give you one example of a use case that one of our business operators created, and that's the loyalty program. The concept is as follows. Let's say our users, they are placing orders, and while placing orders, they are basically collecting points. So there's this concept of collecting points and at some point resetting them. And when they collected enough points, they are able to choose specific rewards, and then the rewards get added to their delivery, such that they get rewards for free. And the cool thing about this is that there was one analyst who worked on this feature, and within a few weeks, this was actually being tested for the first time, and then rolled out later. So it's very cool to see that one analyst is able to build such a feature without backend engineering involved. And the cool thing about this is that, when business operators started to work more with this, they even saw more potential for nice use cases. And I would say in the end, it went beyond our imagination of all the things they could do with this. So it's really cool to see the adoption, and they're really happy with the power that they get. So then some numbers on the rule engine. By now we have over 200 rules, and in total they are doing 37 million evaluations per day. And per day this leads to almost 2 million actions that are being applied. So that is quite a lot of impact. So this is our last slide. If you want to read a bit more about what we do at Picnic, you can go to blog.picnic.nl. And if you're interested in working at Picnic, we have the join.picnic.app, and we also have a very nice booth. So if you have any questions later about that, feel free to join us there. And with that, I want to say thank you all for your attention. Are there any questions?
A good question. So this incident that we talked about, the cheese paper, this was a real thing that happened, and we have started looking into solutions. It's not built yet, but we're looking into a tracing solution, basically checking, hey, have we visited this rule already? Have we triggered a flow that reaches the same rule again, and then abort that. Good question. So deciding should this be a rule is actually one of the steps in making this happen. So not any analyst will just go crazy and start building things. There's analysts, there's leads in those teams, and they go to them to first analyze the use case. Hey, is this the right fit? Given all the many previous cases that have been built so far, were there a success case? What are the learnings? What works? What doesn't? For example, flows that are unlikely to change, flows that are very mission critical. Let's imagine a checkout process, then this is probably not a good match for that. The good use cases for this would be cases where there's a need for quick experimentation, right? So as a business analyst, I want to try this logic, see if that works. I want to do something else, just quickly iterate. This is what the platform gives them. They can decide what to do when it goes live, when to iterate, just all on their own.
And if it's a more generic feature, we could like build something such that it is available via the rule engine, and it's other business operators can start using that particular feature more conveniently.
Also, in some cases, some flows have started as a rule, as a quick prototype. Does this work? And once it has been validated, then another backend team has taken over and actually build this into the backend. So it's a platform for experimentation quickly.
Yeah, so it also uses quite some other like systems we've built under the hood to, for example, do the loyalty program. But right now, it's indeed you need to be a bit tech savvy to define a rule. But as we speak, we're working on a new project that actually allows you to, in a more drag and drop fashion, build these kind of campaigns, is what we call them. So we're basically working on that next step to make it even easier to define rules, campaigns, or how you want to call them.
Yeah, definitely. That's a bit the mindset of the company to try to create platforms that are reusable and that the business can rely on them to shift direction quickly. So you asked about UI. We have actually a similar business side driven system for defining UIs. So if they need some visualization to show your current points or the options that you'll get to pick from in terms of GIFs, they can also do that. Different system. A good question. So you mean as the output of a role firing off an event? So we don't support that directly because we believe that the output of a rule should be a command, and generally a command is better represented as an HTTP request. What we do is some of the teams that are handling those requests, their implementation would like to emit events, then that event emission happens on their side once they have accepted the request. That is a feature request, actually. We don't currently have it, but yes, so something that we have found is that with having a lot of rules, they sometimes compete for resources. And then a rule that is not so critical and not so time sensitive, but it's actually very busy, prevents others from being fast enough. This is something that we will look into.
Top.
A good question. So our team maintains a set of the most used actions when a business team say, "Hey, actually now there's a new internal product that can create vouchers." I don't know. Then they can come to us and ask, "Hey, can you add the capability of creating vouchers?" But until there is a critical mass. To justify actually putting in the effort to support this, we have an escape hatch where they can define an action, which is a call to an arbitrary endpoint.
Well, they can locally. He asked like, how can they test their rules, basically, and who is responsible for that. So they can use component testing to do that. So that's on their side, and then on top of that, they can use the dry run mode to see if it works correctly. But yeah, they are mainly responsible themselves to test the business logic, because we also don't know about, like, they are the experts on that part. So. But yeah, on the rules themselves, they are checked in on GitHub, GitHub. So there's also a review process there. So they ask reviews from people who are also knowledgeable on that, to make sure it's sound, I would say.
They test their own flow, indeed. So we design it in. We try to make it as easy to use and understand as possible, because we believe in greatly extending the code coverage. So the way it works is the business teams, they are able to define the test cases in terms of examples. So if there is this event, what actions do I expect? They can create suites of tests, and then the CI will actually validate that the rule is doing the right thing. But it's a good point that there might be complex interaction, right? So different rules sort of interacting with each other. We currently don't have a means to test this, but what we do encourage is through the UI to understand what are the rules that are live, and to talk to their supervisor who has an overview of what is going on, to see how use case fits in the whole picture.
Okay, I think that was it. So then, once again, thanks all.
Thank you.